Hi, it's Marilyn Harris here of Hard at Work, and I am here with,
Elaine Culverwell.
and we're going to be talking about how to make an impactful legacy for your business. This audience, this recording is really meant for CEOs and business owners who really want to get more out of their workplaces and more out of their employees, obviously, or people that they work with. So I'm going to let Elaine introduce herself, so she's a lot better at it than I am. Go for it.
I'm a former teacher, junior high and high school, and I became a marriage and family therapist a little later in life. And one of the major strategies, techniques, tools I use is the Enneagram, and I'm going to be talking about the Enneagram today. The Enneagram is a system of 9 different personality types. And in fact, the word Ennea comes from the Greek word for 9. And the Enneagram is a tool for understanding how we are different, how we might be thinking differently, acting differently, feeling differently, and how important that is in our personal lives and in the workplace in order to understand each other better and have much more successful relationships.
Great. Thank you, Elaine. So now that you've introduced yourself and how benefit it is, I've been taking classes with Elaine for a while now, and I'm really understanding who I am, what my number is, and how I relate to others. And I really thought that the part of the Enneagram was really important for workplaces because it really helps you understand each other and avoid conflict. And when there is conflict, you can deal with it. So I'm going to ask Elaine a couple of questions because she already knows how she got started with doing it. So she's just going to give us some examples of the various numbers and how they work and how people can work more effectively in the workplace. So can you tell us, Elaine, some things and success stories that you've worked with some people that you've worked with and how you've had some really good success stories?
I'm going to start with myself because my husband and I, although we thought we were so much alike because we both liked Johnny Mathis, this was years ago, and we got married, and it became very obvious very quickly that we actually were quite different. And we might think something, and it's natural for human beings to think other people are just like you. And so when my husband might say something or do something that was so totally different than anything I would do, I was really surprised by it and sometimes hurt by it. When we'd been married about 15 years, we learned about the Enneagram from my brother and sister who had taken a class and brought it along on a family vacation. And I started reading about all 9 types and realized that I identified the most with type 9. Type 9s are called the mediators, the peacemakers. We have this belief about the world that everyone should get along, that the world, if there were harmony in it, the world would be such a better place. Now, anybody listening to this right now is going to be, some will go, oh yeah, I think that too. And others will go, oh, that sounds so wimpy. You won't get anything done if everybody's just trying to get along. But that's why I want people to know that at this very moment, 2 people in conversation can be viewing the world very differently. And it's important to know that so your automatic assumption isn't that somebody is right or somebody is wrong, because that's just not the case. There's just huge differences. So what we found out was my husband identified with type 5. And type 5 on the Enneagram diagram circle system is called the observer or the investigator. He likes to think about things. His whole thinking process is very different from mine. In fact, I think out loud, and I'll be talking and I'll be giving my ideas about things, but I won't necessarily be sure of what I'm talking about yet. I just think out loud as part of my process. And it frustrated him so much because he thinks internally, and then when he has his final answer, he speaks it. And so he kept thinking, well, is that your final answer? And you can imagine that no, it wasn't. And so when we discovered this, it just made our communication so much better to realize we worked very differently. I can talk on and on. He likes bullet points. And so if you're in the workplace and you have someone like me as a manager, because I have really good people skills, and often people with people skills rise in the company. And then you have someone working for you, like my husband, who wants the bullet points and wants you to quickly get to the point and the topic, and doesn't need all this extra relational stuff, then it can cause real problems. So our marriage and our relationship and our communication was improved so much by understanding how different we were, and then finding ways to cope with those differences.
I'm sure that a lot of workers would relate to the story.
Yes.
And they're thinking, oh, they're not out to get me.
No. And that's what happens is you go, why would someone ever say that or act that way or do those things, when in fact, from their worldview, a worldview of either, in the case of type 8s, who are called the leaders or the boss or the protectors, their worldview is that the world is a tough place and only the strong survive. So they have a lot of vested energy into looking tough or looking strong. And sometimes 8s rise to the top in a company because they are forceful, they are direct, they have a lot of energy, and they have a lot of drive to lead in certain situations. But when they are at the top and talking to people in their direct, forceful way, people can go, whoa, why are you so angry? And an 8 will be confused and go, I'm not angry, I'm just being direct. And so if you don't know this, that this person is an 8 and they have this forceful way, they can come across really as scary. And my husband talks about this in his job, how his boss, who once had a boss who was an 8, and people would leave the boss's room crying. And my husband, knowing the Enneagram, he actually treated this boss with a lot of respect, which is one thing 8s really value. And he would go in, he would ask for his help, and 8s want to help and they want to empower people. And so he wouldn't whine, he wouldn't do anything like that, which an 8 might sort of cast aside as, hey, just, you've got to do something. So he would ask for help. He would give his ideas clearly, which an 8 really wants. They don't want you to pussyfoot around about something. And his boss, more than any other employee, would give John, my husband, the encouragement to go out and do things. Even one time he said, well, I don't think it's going to work, but go ahead and try. And so their relationship was very successful. And like I said, other people just found him to be extremely difficult to work with. So to me, that's the power of the Enneagram, is understanding what motivates people, what they are looking for, how they communicate, what's important to them. And all of these things can be learned in Enneagram classes, which is what I teach.
So what do you think are some of the obstacles that people don't want to learn about the Enneagram?
Well, I will tell you one thing. One of the types is type 6 is called the Loyal Skeptic. They are extremely loyal and trusting when they feel that you are being truthful, when you can be trusted. But they can be extremely skeptical of you if they don't trust you or feel like you are an authority that they may have problems with. And so skeptics sometimes see a system like the Enneagram and go, oh, you're just putting me in a box. You're saying I'm a number. But what's important to understand about the Enneagram is we already are in the boxes of our own making. I am in the box of being a 9. 9s want to avoid conflict because, of course, how can you have harmony with everything, everyone, which I value, if you are having constant conflict? So when I first learned about the Enneagram, I realized I was already in a box of a person looking, and my focus of attention would be on, is there harmony? Is there conflict? And that was not a good place to be. Avoiding conflict, because in a business situation, there are conflicts on a daily basis.
Right.
So being a person who avoided conflict was going to cause me, and had caused me, problems before. And the Enneagram gave me the map for things I could do, things I could understand about myself, that really helped me get comfortable, so comfortable with conflict, that one of the workshops I'm offering later this year is called The Gift of Conflict, which before the Enneagram, I would never have understood that. So even in just the 4 types we've been talking about, we've talking about someone who it was important to be strong. We're talking about someone who can be aware of danger and not know if they can trust you or not. We've been talking about somebody who likes to kind of be back and observe, but wants information, loves to research, which in fact my husband was. He was a researcher. And then 9s like myself, who can be great mediators, great peacemakers, but we can avoid conflict in a way that even creates conflict.
Right. Yeah, I can certainly see that too.
Yeah.
You know, when you avoid conflict and something comes up and you just disappear out of the room.
It can, for a 9, for a type 9, it can be frightening, and you can have this sense conflict will separate us. But what was so interesting to learn with the Enneagram is, now that I am much more comfortable with conflict, it actually can feel intimate and bring people together, because you're looking for understanding. You're looking for why you have different beliefs. And so conflict sometimes is the way you do that. And now I'm much more comfortable with it. And in my therapy practice, when I'm working with couples or in work situations, helping people resolve conflicts, it really is an important skill.
So what are some other things that you have found that has really helped in communications? Do you have any other little stories to share?
Well, the Enneagram identifies types divided in, although there are 9 different types. And when I say that, we all have all of these characteristics, but we tend to lead. There are things that are more important to us than there might be for someone else. And we have 3 of the 9 types, what we call heart types or feeling types, and relationship issues tend to be very important for them. We have what I mentioned before, head types, like my husband, who love to think about things and want information and want life to be more secure. So right away, we have 2 real differences there. People for whom relationships and the issues that come up in relationships are really important to them, and people who like to think and plan and analyze, and by doing that, assure themselves certainty. And then the last 3 types are what we call body types. And there's a gut instinct. There's a need for action, a need for structure, but a sense of receiving information and being very comfortable with bodies and the information we take in through our bodies, and how, as a 9, I'm a body type, can feel other people's issues. I can actually draw information from them through my body. My husband thinks, of course, that's crazy, because he takes his information in through his head and his thoughts.
Right.
But these are very real differences. And so in businesses, it's incredibly important to have all types of people, because each of the 9 types offers gifts that we as a species, we as a company, we as families really need. So I'll give you an example. Type 7. Type 7 is called the Epicure because they tend to want the best kind of life for themselves. They can be called adventurers. They have lots of ideas. They want options for everything. They don't want their day planned in a way that it has to be just this way. They want the option to go with some other really interesting new idea they have. And they're very good at taking an idea over here and an idea over here and synthesizing them together to create something totally new that someone else would have thought about, like putting space technology and educational technology together and coming up with all kinds of new things. that type of person is fabulous for any company or organization because of their ideas, because of their fun, because of their optimistic nature. But one of the hard things for type 7 is to complete things that may get boring as the work, as you actually get down to the nitty-gritty work, it may feel boring. And so a 7 can have a hard time staying in that place at the workplace. And so what is very, very helpful is if you have type 3s. Type 3s are very interested in getting things done. Their focus is goals and tasks and results. And so if you pair a type 7 with a type 3, so you have the idea person and the person who follows it through and makes sure it gets done. Or you could bring in a type 1 who is sometimes called the perfectionist, but because their standards are so high, they're not comfortable with that word. So sort of improvers, that's a much more accurate. They want to make things the best they can make it. And perfection is pretty important to them, doing it right. Then you can take what was someone's fabulous new idea and see it through done well. What a perfect combination of people working together, as long as they understand their differences. So the person who wants to get it done isn't driven crazy by the person who comes up with a new idea every day.
Yeah, that's so awesome. I like how you went through each person's and the numbers that kind of match that personality.
Well, that fits very much with my daughter. Just got a promotion in that she works for a city in a department, and her boss and the colleagues all went to an Enneagram workshop recently. And so he came back and said, "I'm a 7." And she said, because my daughter's very versed in the Enneagram, and she said it was so helpful that he can look at this without being judgmental, without being blaming. And when he comes in with his 100th idea about how to improve the department, she can, very nicely say, "Great, let's write down all these ideas, but now let's try and get done with the ones that we really think we can accomplish and do right now."
Right.
But I also want to bring in the importance of having someone like you. You identify with type 2, and we've been getting to know this over the last few months. And type 2s are also in this relationship group of types for whom relationships are very important. And in any workplace, it is invaluable to have somebody who cares about when there might be birthdays or when there might be, relationships that are having difficulties, or just that values getting along. And not necessarily like I do as a 9, wanting everybody, no conflict, but just your nature is to be aware of relationships, how people, who needs help, who needs your help, or who might need the help of someone else. What a fabulous gift you bring to a company, to an organization, to do things like that. Yeah. So that's valuable. And then I could bring in type 4. And I have done workshops on bringing the Enneagram into the workplace. And I remember one of the men who came to this workshop, he said, and type 4s are often called the romantics or the tragic romantics. And in therapy, there are often kids that parents bring in and say, "He's such a drama king or queen. Please fix them." But type 4s have a real focus of attention on emotions, on wanting life to be meaningful, on wanting things to be authentic. And they get pulled into companies because there might be aspects to it that are different. They're really interested in doing they want to be things that are done in a unique way or a special way. And they want to be seen for their value of having unique and special ways to contribute. But this particular 4 at a workshop said, "Don't decorate my door on my birthday." Because all types avoid certain things. And type 4s avoid the mundane, the regular, the everyday. They want an experience that is unique and different. And it might be the thrill of their job is that they are doing something that really allows them to express this and discover things. So his point was, don't treat me like every other employee,
Mm.
because I'm not going to appreciate that. I'm going to want you to see what I have to offer that's different. And so there may be jobs you give me to do that aren't going to fit with my wish to offer something special. But if you put me in just the right niche, I will be an employee that you will appreciate forever.
Mm.
So having these understandings of these different different gifts people offer, and putting them in places in work or valuing what they do, can offer you a company and a workplace where everyone feels valued and where everyone is doing something that pulls
Right.
on their best resources and their best abilities.
Yeah, and I like too, Elaine, what you were saying with the Enneagram is that everybody has some capacity for all the numbers in their own personality,
Yes.
but we all have our main drivers.
Yes.
Like the number 2s for myself, I'm a connector. I like to connect people, people person, people skills. And sometimes that's not too valued in a workplace. They think, oh, well, we need the doers. We need we need tech people that can do the coding and stuff like that. So there's every personality, and the Enneagram is very much needed and needed in the world, not just in the workplace.
Oh, absolutely.
So
because I see all these same issues come up between couples or between parents and children.
Right.
So one of the things I do, besides offering workshops to staff and different organizations, is I also give classes in the Enneagram, introducing it in various aspects. And it's quite a complex system. So you can learn just the surface and sort of descriptions of each type, but you can also go into so much more. Like recently, you came to one of my classes on love and how different people express love differently, how they want to be shown love differently, and what a difference it can make to have that knowledge instead of beating your head against the wall when a relationship isn't working. Right. And so this works not just in the workplace, but in other areas. I do want to make one caution. I am not suggesting that a company goes and figures out everybody's Enneagram type and says, you work here, now you work here because you're this. Not at all. But I think that knowledge can be helpful. If a manager knew that about people, they might suggest, gee, would research interest you more? Would human resources interest you more? Would management interest you more? And many people rise in a company to a level of management, and then it's like, what do I do now? And so we want to understand people and help us to do a better job managing people by knowing more about them and about ourselves. And how we're so different.
Because it really comes down to who we are, being kind to ourselves, I call it.
Yes.
You know, and when we're kind to ourselves and we understand other people, then we're a lot more effective in the workplace as well. So in closing, we're just about to close here. So I just wanted to ask Elaine, she's doing some more classes coming up, and she practices out of the Fremont, California area. So do you want to just give it a final closing for that?
Like I said, I'm a marriage and family therapist first. That's my main work that I do. But I also go and give presentations in businesses. I do classes in all kinds of areas. And for example, I've done short evening classes as part of a series we call Hors d'oeuvres, Desserts, and the Enneagram. And that's a Saturday night, and people come and bring food to share, and we pick a topic. And our latest topic was love. And I've done those on in the workplace or parenting or defense mechanisms or any kind of topic that the Enneagram can help people see how they experience these issues differently. And all my life, I have wanted to help people get along. I mean, it's been my nature since I was born, because I am a 9. I am a peacemaker. I am a mediator. And one of my skills is being able to see all sides of the issues, and which is why I feel I can be of help. But my main goal is having people get along, especially with the people you love and the people you work with. Because when you understand each other, then just magical things can happen.
Mm-hmm.
And we can be the best version of ourselves because the Enneagram gives a real roadmap of how to make the changes
Right.
you want to make.
Right.
And so I will continue to do these in the Fremont area. And people can contact me. I think there'll be a number and email below to be on my email list for classes that are coming up. I'll have more classes in the fall. And or information about contacting me with helping them with their businesses.
Yeah.
And the businesses could be I work for a preschool and work with the staff of the preschool. And I have worked with other businesses in completely different directions. I've worked with the incarcerated as part of the Enneagram Prison Project. And so I just would encourage people to realize so many conflicts arise out of just not realizing that we are different. Right. And not good, not bad, just different. So my job is to help people understand those differences.
Great. Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I see we have a little delay here in the video.
Yeah.
But anyway, we'll end this call and I'll be reaching out to you very soon. Okay, thank you.